After months of back and forth, it's finally come down to this. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics goes head-to-head with the United States of America. It's flag versus flag. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. I'm your host, Tyler Vance himself, and you're not. It's February 9th, 1985. Last week, Cyndi Lauper's loser boyfriend, David Wolf, was sent to the hospital courtesy of Roddy Piper. The NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, addressed Chief Wahoo McDaniel's challenge, goading the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion to just try and take the World Heavyweight Championship from the Nature Boy. And both the Russian Bear and his nephew, the Russian Nightmare, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, attempted to reclaim their stolen property in the form of the Soviet Union flag. I'm so eager to get to the flag versus flag match, so we're going to jump right into the NWA's Worldwide Wrestling Show, where crotchety David Crockett and Tony Schiavone greet us on commentary as they call the first match. Steve Casey takes on the Golden Terror one-on-one. Casey is able to control most of the match with a mixture of holds, and it doesn't take him long at all to walk away with a win following an airplane spin into a Samoan drop on the Golden Terror. Crotchety David Crockett has a word with a visibly frustrated James J. Dillon, and the reason that Dillon is so upset is thanks to Dick Slater's counterattack. It's costing the man money, damn it! A prime example of money down the drain was in a recent match where bounty hunter Ox Baker failed spectacularly in finishing the job that Terry Funk started against Dick Slater. So Dillon has decided to bring in another bounty hunter to replace the failure that was Ox Baker. Terry Funk has been James J. Dillon's most effective bounty hunter thus far. So once again, Dillon has gone to the Funk family tree.
I'm talking about Dory Funk Jr., and I'm going to spend a lot of bucks to see it happen, and it could happen a lot sooner than a lot of people think.
It's been some time since Dory Funk Jr. competed in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling area, and for those that have already forgotten about him, you're in for a treat. Brian Adidis goes head-to-head with Dory Funk Jr., and you better believe that James J. Dillon is ringside to make sure he sees his money put to good use. Adidis is able to score 2 quick drop kicks on the bounty hunter, forcing Funk Jr. to go outside of the ring and have some pointers given to him from Dillon. These pointers prove invaluable as once back inside the ring, Dory Funk Jr. is able to hit Brian Adidis with a back suplex, a move which permanently turns the tide in Funk Jr.'s favor. A double underhook suplex follows before Adidis trips like an idiot, which paves the way for Dory Funk Jr. to force Brian Adidis to submit with a spinning toe hold. Backstage, crotchety David Crockett is once again blessed by the presence of NWA television champion Tully Blanchard, who's once again brought his perfect 10 baby doll with him. Blanchard finds it incredibly difficult to be the absolute best professional wrestler in the entire industry. What? You're telling me you don't believe him? Well, you do remember that the American Dream Dusty Rhodes recently challenged Tully Blanchard for the NWA Television Championship, right? I bet you were so certain that Rhodes would easily walk away as the new champion. But guess again, pal. Sure, Tully Blanchard may have been caught in Dusty Rhodes' figure 4 leg lock, but Blanchard never gave up. Not even when the time limit ran out, the match was called off, and yet the American Dream still refused to remove the figure 4 leg lock. Rhodes was trying so hard to intentionally injure Tully Blanchard that Baby Doll had no choice but to step in, hitting the American Dream again and again until that tub of lard finally let go.
I've seen better looking ladies on the street than that right there.
Unbelievable. Not only did Dusty Rhodes fail to capture the NWA Television Championship from Tully Blanchard, he also unleashed the self-loathing that the American Dream feels about himself against the champion. And then on top of that, he verbally accosted someone as innocent as Baby Doll. All of this is of course just the proverbial cherry on top of the mud pie, which comprises the criminal activity that Dusty Rhodes has been known to perpetrate up until this point. I have to ask, why is this man allowed to freely roam our streets? Lock him up! The things the American Dream have said about and to Baby Doll are inexcusable, and Tully Blanchard takes it a step further, warning Dusty Rhodes that if he should ever lay a hand on Blanchard's Perfect 10 Baby Doll,
If you ever, and I mean ever, touch her, Dusty Rhodes, there's going to be dues to be paid.
Tony Schiavone has the American Dream Dusty Rhodes himself, who immediately responds to the NWA television champion Tully Blanchard's statements.
Don't ever let a lady, don't send a lady to do a man's work. The only times I put my hand on a lady is when I want to be cuddled.
You're a disgusting freak, Rhodes. I'd like to hold Dusty Rhodes to his word when he states that what's going on is only between himself and Tully Blanchard, and the American Dream will never lay a finger on Baby Doll. But I'm not that stupid. Blanchard isn't either, and he'll be prepared to defend Baby Doll's honor when the time comes. Speaking of, the time has come. The uncle and nephew of Ivan and Nikita Koloff look to reclaim their stolen property from both the Shame of the USA Don Kernodle and Crying Ricky Steamboat in a flag versus flag match. There are two ways that you can win this match. 1. You reclaim your flag from the opposing team's corner. 2. Pinfall or submission. Immediately, the idiotic animals in the crowd begin to drown the arena out with their dumb
Listen to the fans. Let's listen.
Born in the USA is the best place anywhere in the world.
Oh, how wrong you are, David Crockett. How wrong you are. Don Kernodle is still wearing that neck brace for the broken neck that he suffered at the hands of his former tag team partners. And you'd better believe that the Koloffs will be honing in on the injury like Sidewinder missiles. Despite this obvious target on himself, Kernodle is able to gain some confidence early on, following a backdrop and an elbow onto one of the Russians before tagging in Steamboat, who goes to town on both of the Koloffs. With all four men in the ring, Ricky Steamboat and Don Kernodle whip the uncle and nephew combination into one another. From there, Steamboat remains dominant over Ivan Koloff with a mixture of chops and punches. The Shame of the USA and the Russian Nightmare both get tags of their own. However, Kernodle and Steamboat take advantage of the situation by double teaming Nikita Koloff in their corner. Finally, Don Kernodle gets what's coming to him, as Nikita Koloff whips the Shame of the USA into the ropes, where Ivan Koloff's knee is waiting to greet Kernodle's spine. The Russian Bear then once more gets the tag and hits a swinging neckbreaker. Here we go, on Kernodle, resulting in a near fall. Nikita Koloff takes over and attempts to apply the Cobra Clutch to the Shame of the USA. However, Don Kernodle is able to wiggle free. Ivan Koloff re-enters the match and goes on to miss a clothesline, opening the way for Don Kernodle to apply his own swinging neckbreaker. But that idiot isn't known for thinking ahead, as the moon ends up hurting him more than it does the Russian Bear. Both Russians go on to keep Don Kernodle isolated from Ricky Steamboat from that point onward, taking every opportunity to try and re-break Kernodle's neck in the process. That is, until the Shame of the USA breaks free from his predicament, but not so fast. The Russian Nightmare strikes at the last second, preventing a tag to Steamboat. So Ricky says, screw the rules, I'm best friends with Jim Crockett Jr., and enters the ring anyway. Once more, with all four men in the ring, a second brawl breaks out before something absolutely disgusting happens. When the Shame of the USA Don Kernodle was injured last year by Ivan and Nikita Koloff, it was unfortunate, but accidents happen in the ring. The Russians did not intend to injure Don Kernodle in such a severe fashion. Something that I cannot say is the same for Kernodle and Steamboat's actions that follow. Both men employ the same maneuver which broke Don Kernodle's neck against Ivan Koloff, with the sole intention of breaking the Russian Bear's neck. With Ivan Koloff down, Don Kernodle and Ricky Steamboat go on to secure the win and reclaim their United States flag before perpetrating another disgrace to the sport of professional wrestling and attacking the uncle and nephew. Crusher Khrushchev, a third of the NWA World Six-Man Tag Team Champions alongside the Koloffs, has no choice at this point but to insert himself by going to his partner's aids. But crying Ricky Steamboat ends up chasing all three Russians out of the arena with the flag of the Soviet Union in hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, should be very proud of these two Americans.
No, you shouldn't be proud of what was just perpetrated against the Koloffs, specifically Ivan Koloff. If you are proud, not only are you a disgrace to your fellow Americans, but you are also a poor example of a professional wrestling fan. Intentionally going out of your way to injure another athlete is just disgusting and inexcusable behavior, and I hope one day that both Don Kernodle and Ricky Steamboat receive the worst comeuppance. Crotchety David Crockett has Magnum TA standing by for an interview, and Magnum states that he has tremendous respect for fighting champions, specifically pointing to the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, in both an example to his point and a jab at TA's current nemesis, Chief Wahoo McDaniel. Magnum TA warns the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion that he has no idea how far Magnum is willing to go to get what he wants in the championship.
I'm coming on your track. I'm like a hungry animal chasing you down.
You can start by winning matches. A lot of matches. And by the time 1990 rolls around, we'll see how you've progressed, pal. The main event of NWA Worldwide Wrestling sees half of the NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Raging Loser, Manny Fernandez, take on Frank Lang in singles competition. Fernandez is able to remain one step ahead of Lang no matter how Frank tries to go about the match. It's no surprise then that the Raging Loser, Manny Fernandez, secures the win over Frank Lang following a knee drop from the second rope.
With great pleasure, I present Dick Slater.
The pleasure's all yours, Crockett. It's easy to see that James J. Dillon has been stressed out lately. After an incredible display by Terry Funk on Dick Slater, it's been hard to chase that high. Ox Baker didn't get the job done when he fell to Dick Slater in their match, and so Dickie has taken this as a sign that the tide has finally turned in his favor.
Keep on spending that money, because the more money you spend on me, the stronger I get.
At this point, I'd like to remind everyone that Dick Slater is not a man known for his intelligence. Last up to be interviewed by crotchety David Crockett are two men that should be blacklisted from professional wrestling for the actions they perpetrated earlier against Ivan and Nikita Koloff. The shame of the USA, Don Kernodle, and crying Ricky Steamboat. The pair have the United States flag with them, and Kernodle goes on to state that no matter how mighty their Russian foes may be, the strength of all Americans united behind them is insurmountable. Keep dreaming. Then Steamboat finally speaks some sense when he admits that both he and Kernodle made a single mistake. They let the Russians get away. And what a dangerous mistake that might turn out to be. Vince McMahon and the living legend Bruno Sammartino greet us on WWF Championship Wrestling. Before we get into the show, I have a very important announcement to make. What I'm about to begrudgingly admit happened sometime last week and was very briefly touched upon at the end of last week's Championship Wrestling by Vince McMahon. Adrian, Adonis, and Dick Murdoch lost the WWF Tag Team Championships to the American Express, Barry Windham, and Mike Rotundo. And the kicker? The American Express brought their new manager down to ringside with them, who proved pivotal in their win, Captain Lou Albano. What a fall from grace Captain Albano has experienced since selling out to Cyndi Lauper and her goof troop of leeches. Oh sure, he's managing the WWF Tag Team Champions, but the man has no morals. He will sell out the American Express the moment it benefits the captain, and that's a guarantee. The first match of WWF Championship Wrestling sticks to the theme of tag team wrestling, as AJ Petruzzi and Terry Gibbs team up to face the team of Tito Santana and Blackjack Mulligan. Tito Santana is all over Terry Gibbs at the onset of the match, forcing Gibbs to retreat and tag in Petruzzi, who tries and fails against both Santana and Mulligan. AJ Petruzzi gets Irish whipped into his own partner in a show of complete dominance from both Tito Santana and Blackjack Mulligan. A reverse elbow on Petruzzi from Mulligan leads to a quick tag to Santana, who goes on to force AJ Petruzzi to submit with a figure 4 leg lock. This week's WWF update continues the trend of focusing on pop star Cyndi Lauper, who was recently spotted out in public alongside WWF Women's Champion Wendy Richter and Mr. T, star of that awful A-Team show. All three of them have united under a common hatred of Roddy Piper, and Hot Rod's recent actions in December of last year, which resulted in Lauper's loser boyfriend David Wolf being sent to the hospital, have tempted Mr. T's wrath. So, Mr. T will be next week's guest on Piper's Pit. At least the actor will finally know what it's like to be on a good show. Jim Powers takes on WWF Intercontinental Champion Greg the Hammer Valentine in a non-title singles match next. Powers hits an enziguri early on, dazing Valentine. However, Jim Powers makes a mistake by not following up on his momentum. The Hammer subsequently hits an atomic drop on his opponent before going on to work over Jim Powers' legs, paving the way for the upcoming figure 4 leg lock. Once locked on, Greg Valentine has no issue forcing Jim Powers to submit. I mentioned during the WWF update that Roddy Piper's actions in December ended up sending David Wolf to the hospital. We saw the results of Hot Rod's actions last week, but finally, after months of waiting, we get to see how it all went down. This ceremony honoring Cyndi Lauper's contributions to the WWF took place last December on the 28th at Madison Square Garden. Both the WWF Champion Hulk Hogan and the WWF Women's Champion Wendy Richter are on hand to help celebrate Cyndi Lauper's success, while Lauper herself holds back tears, thanking the buffoons in the crowd alongside the suits of the World Wrestling Federation.
And especially to you fans, I want to give back a piece of my success to you.
In return, Cyndi Lauper graces both the WWF as well as Captain Lou Albano with gold records of her album, She's So Unusual. But what about recognition for Roddy Piper and his contributions to Cyndi Lauper's success? And at that point, let's not forget about the contributions of Cowboy Bob Orton to Roddy Piper's health, making him able to attend this ceremony. Where are their gold records?
I want to present you with this. Oh, look out! David Wolf trying to come to the rescue, but he's no match.
Oh, that was beautiful. I have to see that again.
David Wolf trying to come to the rescue, but he's no match.
I could watch David Wolf be knocked around the ring 24/7. It's just a shame that Hulk Hogan had to ruin the fun. But as we saw, the Hulkster's return to the ring was too little, too late. The former WWF Tag Team Champions, Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch, are in action next against Mr. Italy, Salvatore Bellomo, and Quick Draw Rick McGraw. McGraw is able to get the better of Adonis early on in the match, hitting a dropkick before attempting a maneuver in the corner. Adrian Adonis has other ideas though, and in return hits Rick McGraw with a back suplex. Adonis goes up to the top rope and manages to get enough of a missile dropkick to daze McGraw, leading to a tag to Murdoch, who finishes Quick Draw Rick McGraw off with a brainbuster. Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch, they still got it. Everyone hates Captain Lou Albano on this week's edition of Piper's Pit. How's that head, fat man?
All of a sudden expect everybody to love him. I still think you're a piece of garbage. All right, come on now. You got that. wait. We don't have time for you.
With Piper's Pit effectively suffering a hostile takeover, Captain Lou Albano takes this opportunity to spread his propaganda to the idiotic masses, who lap up the news that apparently Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo are the best tag team in the entire world right now, before then going on to proclaim that the American Express are Captain Albano's new personal bodyguards.
So, Roddy Piper, these are my bodyguards. All right, these are my bodyguards.
You see, boys, you are the WWF Tag Team Champions, which is a phenomenal feat in itself, but you sold your souls to the devil, and now you find yourselves in eternal servitude to Captain Lou Albano. Despite winning his debut match against Terry Gibbs, Hillbilly Jim still has a long way to go before he's even on level with someone like his personal trainer, the WWF champion, Hulk Hogan. So the pair continue their training, all in an effort to make Big Jim from Kentucky a superstar.
Hillbilly Jim, what are you doing, man? I told you can make breakfast, but what are you sneaking in there? What are you sneaking in there?
Isn't that good?
Oh,
that's good.
Hillbilly, that's terrible.
Look here.
Slap that thing on, AJ. Crank it on there. Crank it on, AJ. Come on, Hillbilly, drop of the leg.
As a gift for progressing so well, Hogan offers Jim the very boots that the Hulkster trained in preparation for his match against the Iron Sheik, where he became the WWF champion. It must have been really nice to know who you were going to face and thus subsequently properly train for him. Unlike the Iron Sheik, who was under the assumption that he would be facing off and therefore trained to face Bob Backlund practically up until the bell rang. Oh, and if you haven't seen that episode, it's linked down below for your viewing pleasure. The main event of WWF Championship Wrestling sees Jim Young and Joe Murdoch team up to face the Heenan family, the true giant of the WWF, John Studd, and the world's strongest man, Ken Patera. Murdoch tries to take advantage of the $15,000 reward to anyone that can slam Big John Studd, but Joe fails spectacularly. The match itself is nothing more than a demonstration for what Bobby the Brain Heenan's men are capable of, as Jim Young goes on to submit to Ken Patera's swinging full Nelson. You'd think that after all the pain, all the suffering that the Shame of the Carolinas went through when he had his neck broken inadvertently by Ivan and Nikita Koloff, that Kernodle would never wish that upon another human being. But here we are, and I don't know if the Russian bear, Ivan Koloff, is going to be okay. I can't see the future, but what I do know is that I have zero respect for what the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, crying Ricky Steamboat, and the Shame of the USA Don Kernodle did when they all three intentionally tried to injure their opponents and gloated about it as if it were some kind of athletic accomplishment. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tyler Vance Rants. Don't forget to hit the bell, like the video, and subscribe so you never miss when a new episode is released. And you can also follow me on social media where it is 1985 in pro wrestling all over again. That's it for now, so I'll see you next week. So long. It's been some time since Dory Funk Jr. participated. What is this, a field trip? You're getting a little Nikita Koloff takes over and attempts to apply the Cobra for their intentional actions against the Ivan Bear Russian Koloff. No!